Alright, yo. So, in today's video, we have the MTT Moore Threads S70. So let me tell you a bit more about this card. So, this graphics card is made by a relatively new Chinese company that goes by the name of Moore Threads. This is a fully Chinese GPU, and I don't mean like all GPUs that are made from like Chinese companies based off of AMD and Nvidia chips. This is fully Chinese. It's not AMD, it's not Nvidia, it's Moore Threads. Moore Threads was founded by a guy called Chang Jianzhong. So he previously worked for Nvidia, so you can probably guess where the design came from, or the internals. So how much of this card is actually Chinese? I'm not too sure, to be honest. For a graphics card company to come up and then make this in just a couple of years, I think they were set up in 2020, is basically unheard of. Like Intel, for example, they've been making their graphics cards, or they've been trying to make their graphics card for years, and they only recently just came up with their Intel Arc GPUs. So it's quite impressive, really, that they can make this so quick. We can see there we have a sticker and all that. And there's not much on the back. There it says Moore Threads MTT S70. And on the sides, it's got this nice pattern design. So we're going to open this up. And it looks very premium, the feel, as you can see. So here's the manual. It has information about how you install the graphics card and all that. And as you see, and a bunch of other stuff that I can totally understand. So moving on, we have the graphics card. It's properly like wedged in there. Looks not too bad though. And as we take this out, you can see that it's premium quality. Very, very impressive actually. You can see it's completely made out of like metal, and the fans are high quality. And the whole heatsink covers the whole graphics card. It's very bulky though as well. And then they have a sticker here that says basically you must plug in PCIe 8 pin. Not sure why that's on there, but that's covering the ports, so I guess that makes sense. And then on the other side, we have 3 display ports and 1 HDMI. So it's pretty good spec, this graphics card. Although it might, for the price, this was 2,499 RMB, which is about $350, I think. So like I said, this graphics card was bought from a well-known retailer called JD.com for the price of 2,499 Chinese renminbi. And I would consider that pretty expensive for what it's worth. But we'll get onto that soon. Okay, so the specs of this card are, there are 3,584 stream processors. It's clocked at 1.6 gigahertz. It has a memory of 7 gigabytes of GDDR6. I don't know why they chose 7 gigabytes. Seems like a weird number. And there's a memory interface of 224-bit and a bandwidth of 392 gigabytes per second. And like I said before, there's DisplayPort 1.4a and HDMI 2.1. So it's not too bad. Definitely modern card, this one. Okay, so now we're installing the graphics card into the PC, and we're going to test out some games, and we can see how well it performs. Okay, so now we've got it all set up, we can turn on the computer and it works perfectly. Is what I like to say, because it doesn't work at all. There's nothing that displays on the screen at all. The lights, however, are working on the graphics card, so that should mean that it should be okay. So as it turns out, only certain motherboards are actually compatible with this graphics card, which is kind of ridiculous, to be honest. And there's about 50, slightly more than 50 motherboards which work. And if your motherboard's not on the list, then it's just going to give you nothing. A black screen, that's it. Apparently, before, they only sold this graphics card as a bundle with a motherboard to stop people from buying the incorrect motherboards, and if they already had an incorrect motherboard. Well, it didn't work for me because I was able to buy the graphics card just by itself, and I have an incorrect motherboard. So it's off to Amazon for me to buy a new motherboard. Alright, so now that it's been a few days, we have the new motherboard and we're going to speed install this and put the graphics card back inside. Let's go. Alright, now the moment of truth. Turns on okay. Seems to be alright. And it works. Thank Flip for that because it was getting pretty annoying at this stage. Alright, now we're trying to download the drivers, so we're going on the website. It's pretty hard to navigate this website, to be honest. We're going to download the MTT S70 drivers, Windows 10, and this weird button. Alright, now it's talking about resize bar. I'm guessing it's saying that it's not enabled, but it's just kind of annoying, to be honest. So we'll go and enable resize bar now. Okay, resize bar enabled. There we go. Okay, and we're finally in the desktop. Absolutely took ages. Okay, so let's install these drivers now.
Done.
There are a few weird things about this graphics card. For some reason the Windows key doesn't work. I don't know why. And the next thing is that this heatsink is so big that it barely even fits into this motherboard, which is supposedly compatible. You can see that the SATA port there is literally blocking the graphics card from fully clicking into place, but it still works, so. Okay, so now that we're in the desktop, we can see that we have all this things set up. If we go onto GPU-C, we can see that it doesn't know what it is. It has nothing here, so I don't know. I wouldn't expect it to know though what is inside. We can check MSI Afterburner, and that also doesn't know, but you can see here it says Moore Threads MTT S70, but nothing can be changed in this. And then, so this is the utility and the driver. You can see that it says everything here, like MTT S70, something else, Gen 4 PCIe, 1.6 gigahertz it's running at, 7 gigabytes of memory, GDDR6, and also in here has all this monitoring of the stats and stuff. So I think this is maybe like an overlay or something. And then we have a lot more stuff. Like the resolution, stuff like that. And apart from that, there's not really that much else in here. Okay, so let's get into some games. Alright, first up we have GTA 5, the classic, and we're on these settings at 1080p, around about high-ish. And we got an average of about 30.3 FPS, a minimum FPS of 27.1, a maximum of 31.7, and a 1% low of 10.8 with a 0% one low of 10.8 as well. This is not such a great score considering this game is really old, from 2013, and other Nvidia and AMD graphics cards can get well over 60 FPS at this price range. Okay, so next I tried Resident Evil 3, but it didn't work at all. And so then I tried Rise Shadow of the Tomb Raider, actually. And to my surprise, this actually worked. I was going to play it on high, but then I changed my mind and put it to low, because I could kind of guess what was going to happen. And in Shadow of the Tomb Raider, we got an average frame rate of 8.6 FPS, a minimum of 2.7, maximum of 13.3, a 1% low of 1.3 FPS, and a 0.1% low of 1.3 FPS as well. So that is terrible, basically. And there were lots of glitches around the game, as you can see, lighting glitches, anything, and it was stuttering. So I don't think this game is really playable on this card. But at least it works, you know. Okay, so Rocket League next at these settings. So in Rocket League we got an average FPS of 81.2, a minimum of 73.7, maximum of 88.4, 1% low of 59.9, and a 0.1% low of 23.8 FPS. So it's pretty good, but this is Rocket League, so it's a very easy game to run, and it's not looking too good for the MTT S70, to be honest. Okay, next we have Rainbow Six Siege at medium settings. The setting shown on the screen. Okay, so in Rainbow Six Siege we got an average FPS of 29.1, a minimum of 3.3, maximum of 56.4, 1% low of 2.8, and 0.1% low of 1.3. So there was a bit of stuttering, to be honest, and it's not easily playable. But the FPS itself is not too bad, actually. Alright, next up we have Counter-Strike. We're running at low settings, I think, yeah? 1080p. And in Counter-Strike we get about 50 FPS. So we now have Fortnite at the lower settings. Tried it before at low settings, 1080p, and the game completely crashed. So now we got it on low and it's at 720p. And it was more or less completely unplayable. We had an average FPS of 29.5, a minimum of 0.6, maximum of 61.7, and 1% and 0.1% lows of 0.6 FPS. It didn't feel like the average FPS was very high, and it kept freezing. I tried to start Red Dead Redemption 2 and 3D Mark, but none of them worked. There's also this cool overlay that you can get. Control X comes up with the FPS, the GPU usage, the speed, temperature, stuff like that. It's not too bad. So you don't even need to install like MSI Afterburner. So this card is not actually sold outside of China. So it may never be sold out of China, to be honest, because you know of US-China relations and stuff like that. So just recently there's been export restrictions on China for AI graphics cards chips, like the server grade ones, and so it makes sense that they would want to make their own GPUs in-house, and they wouldn't have to rely on Nvidia or AMD. Yeah, in the future, who knows? Maybe we'll be all using Chinese GPUs. Thanks for watching if you made it this far. That's the end of the video.